Hello, my fellow movie fans, and welcome to another episode of A Feast of Films Theatre with your hosts, Matthew Ayalew and Ethan R. Hill. How's that? That was good?
Yeah. Classic. Classic.
I won't do the weird voice this time, though, because my voice actually kind of hurts from doing that last time.
Again, I didn't even know that was the start of the podcast. I was like, what's happening?
Surprise, Matt.
Surprise.
And guess what? We've started again.
Oh,
Hello,
man.
fellow movie
Not
fans.
again.
Welcome to another Feast of
got
Film.
me
I got
again.
Matt twice with cold
Oh my
episode
God.
openings.
Oh my god. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, I'm an idiot.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
got
Matt,
me.
we all
You
do that.
got me.
Matt, it's okay. I'm also an idiot because I just questioned if your name was Matt or not when I said it. I'm like, yeah, Matt. Wait, am I talking to Matt? Is this Matt? Did I just misname my friend? Oh no.
Your brain just has the little loading, spinning symbol, just like loading.
Yeah, no,
loading.
dude, my brain it disconnected and was just like, oh, did I just call Matt by the wrong name? Is that actually your
Like,
name?
oh my
And
god,
I
who is he?
I panicked that I called you the wrong name.
Yeah, no, that
And
tracks.
It's like, no, this is the same guy.
That tracks.
The same guy I've been recording with for over a year now. It's someone I've known for over 10 years now. It's been 12 years now, I think, coming up.
Since the end of high school, yeah. I think it's a little...
That's crazy.
11... Wait, no, it's more than that.
It'll be 14 years now, isn't it? 13, 14?
June 20...
Because if our 10-year reunion was last...
What are we in?
was 2
We're in
years ago.
2021. So 12 years,
we're about to
12
hit
years
August.
since grad. And... So then add like 2 years on top of that.
So in 2 years. So yeah, 14
So
years.
math.
We've known each
We're
Matt, I
like,
don't
so
think now's
this
the
is
time or
12, so
place.
then we add 2 on that, and that's like 35? No, that don't sound right.
Matt,
That
if I
don't
can't...
sound right.
If I can't identify you by name, maybe we shouldn't do math problems.
That's like +2. Everyone's gonna be like, good lord, are these guys just stupid as hell? And the answer is yes. Yes, we are.
The other question is going to be like, are they really avoiding talking about Star Wars this much?
No, we're not. It's happening. We should talk about it this
Just-
time,
yeah,
though,
just-
because last time people were like, yeah, Star Wars, and we're just like, psych, other stuff.
Hey, more important things came up.
I don't know. There's no- I guess we're talking about the sequel trilogy, so we might get distracted from time to time.
Well, and again, it's nothing against Force Awakens. We loved, both of us, I think we can just agree out the gate. We both love Force Awakens.
I think it's
for
a
what
very
it is.
enjoyable
We
film.
enjoy it.
Yeah. I went to see it
It's
multiple
fun.
times in the theater when it came out because I thought it was that good. Like, I was very excited
I think
for
I saw it 5 times.
I was
in
very
theaters.
excited for it. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, it marked a new era of Star
Which is always
Wars.
exciting. Yeah.
It's like,
And it'd been 10
It gave us
years
hope.
since episode 3.
yeah, and it was like, cool, this is where they're going. All right, I'm cool to wait for another 3 years until I see another Star Wars film. And then it wasn't 3 years. It was the
It
next
was the next
year.
year.
And then the year
It
after
continued
that.
the story,
And the year
yeah.
after that.
Yeah.
Like, to me, it's like, again, that's honestly, I think, one of the biggest tragedies to happen to this franchise is that they didn't take the 3-year gap.
Yeah,
They
between the
should've-
trilogy. Well, at the very least, I think we could agree Rise of Skywalker should have got an extra year. At the very least.
100%.
Because part of the problem was there, too, losing the director and J.J. Abrams coming back and then not just using the old script, like
Within a few
completely
months.
change, like redoing it, right? So that movie at least should have been a delayed a year. It should have been a delayed a
No,
year.
agree. But I feel the same way with Last Jedi. I feel like, honestly, they should have taken the time to plan it out. They should have taken the time
Oh, yes, I agree on
just-
that front. Yeah.
to breathe,
Yeah.
breathe. And also, like, for me as a Star Wars fan, I don't, and it's becoming the same thing with Marvel. I'm not going to get on a Marvel tangent
Yeah, let's
this
not.
time. I need time to breathe between things. If I just get an onslaught of the same stuff over and over again, I'm going to burn out. Like, I'm going to get too tired. And that's where, like, Star Wars always had that nice balance of, like, just a 3-year gap. That's all you needed.
You got time to reflect on what you just watched, but also you have plenty of time to get hyped again too.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
Like, you get a good chunk of time to be like, oh, oh, this is coming out now. Oh no, oh
Now,
no,
for
great.
myself personally, that never bothered me. Like, I can watch things very close succession and it doesn't bother me. Mainly because I grew up with my brother who would literally watch a movie, rewind it, and put it back in and watch it again. Like, instantly, he would watch the same movie like 2 to 3 times in a day, not with hours between, back to back to back. So a lot of the same thing doesn't really bug me at all. That was never an issue, but I do agree with the Star Wars assessment and the fact that the trilogy itself definitely could have used the years just for extra planning, just to make sure they had a plan and something solid, not just to rush it out quickly, quickly, quickly. So I agree with you there, 100%, 100%. And
But
then
that's
also for the in
and again,
between
I think
ones, it probably would have helped if they did movies people wanted to see.
actually
Yeah.
see, yeah.
I did
But
like
again, I think that also
another
goes.
discussion that'll be fun. It'll be Rogue One when we talk about that, and I do have to rewatch it again, so that I'm primed up and ready to go and have my own
And
opinions and
like
thoughts on that. But Solo, I
genuinely, I
was like,
hope I like it
meh,
when I rewatch it.
meh.
See, I like Solo more than Rogue One, but that's because it felt like Star Wars and was fun. Whereas like Rogue One was so trying to be edgy.
I didn't feel that, but
And again, maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe I'll revisit it and maybe I'll love Rogue One. I don't know. I haven't watched it since 2017. I think was the last time I watched it.
yeah, it is a while.
So that's almost 4 years.
Opinions can change. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm open to it. I'm open to it. Didn't Force Awakens have like multiple years of planning too? Like this was like because Force Awakens, I want to say Disney got Star Wars in.
It was either 2012 or 2013, I think.
I thought it was 2011.
Oh, maybe it was 2011 too. Maybe wait, let me check. Because I'm pretty sure EA got the rights for Star Wars games in 2013, I think. So they have 10-year rights and it's over in 2023. And that was from Disney, but I don't know when did Disney get the rights? Let's find out.
When did
Let's
Disney?
Google this.
When did Disney acquire Lucasfilms?
Yeah.
Basically,
Uh
2012.
Yep. There we go. Lucasfilm of 2012. Yep.
So yeah, 3 years. Basically, they acquired it, and you can't tell me they didn't as soon as they got Lucasfilm didn't immediately go like, "Okay, let's make a Star Wars movie."
Well, yeah, I think I mean, yeah, they probably had to like set up some like structural stuff and get everyone where they need to be kind of thing and
That they probably already started developing.
well, Kathleen Kennedy probably needed to get to her place, but I would think they didn't start developing right away just because they didn't have a plan for the trilogy. Because I think in 3 years, I don't think you're just going to get one film. I think you're going to at least have a good idea where this thing's going. If you were
See, but
planning
that's
for
the
3
thing
years,
is
right?
like,
And it's
that's
not
like Force
planning for
Awakens
3 years
is so
too, technically, I guess, because you still got to film the thing, and they usually film what
Yeah.
8-9 months ahead of time, if not longer, for movies like that
That's
would
why-
have like so much CGI. So
But that's what I'm saying. Like I feel like
probably roughly 2 years of planning.
but I want to say like they still took the time to plan as opposed to essentially a year to do that. And think about it, 2 years to plan and film is still a long time compared to 1 year.
I don't know.
If you cut that stuff in half.
No, like I get what you're. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
because dude, it's double. It's double the time. Right?
I just think.
And that's
I
where
just
for me
think.
it's like and that's where I think
I just think that they probably didn't have everything set up till the deal was 100% complete. Because legally, you can't work on new IP stuff before the deal is complete, right? Like, you're not
Oh, no, I
supposed to
agree.
anyway. So, until that deal was completely completed in 2012, they probably had like some idea with what they wanted to do and who they wanted it to be. But then you got to set up you have to set up the corporate structure of it all, right? Like that
that's
whole
still-
has to
I'm
people in
saying-
positions, you have to find directors, you have to, all that kind of stuff.
I'm still saying that's more time than they gave the sequels to plan, though. Like to me, that even if you look at that time frame, there was still more time to plan that first film and to make that first film than there was to make the second and third film. Because they were on a schedule and they were
Probably.
rushing it.
For sure the third one. For sure the third one. I don't know, yeah, and it's hard to know 100% because we're not behind the scenes and weren't there. But I don't know. Like you're right. Like Force Awakens does seem more thought out. But again, like we talked about this off the podcast. It's not as hard to come up with that first stepping stone, right? Like you can create your characters, you get your first stepping stone, you're already in a universe that's created. You just got to make your slight adjustments. Like they didn't really overhaul the ships or the villains or like there wasn't major overhauls going. They were using a lot of stuff that was redesigned mostly from
Yeah.
the original trilogy. So there's that aspect. So like they're doing like massive redesigning there. But then they never really considered beyond that. Right? Like they got that first step solid, and then they're just like, yeah, what's the second step? So I don't know. Like maybe they had a little bit more time. I can't think it being much though. The amount of time, I feel like there's got to be a lot of time that goes into like setting up those kind of structures and stuff too. Like I wouldn't think it's instantaneous, especially
No,
for
I agree
Kathleen
with that.
Kennedy to get into that position, then find the right people and put the right people in the right
Well, I want
places,
to
kind
say,
of thing. Like
I think she was part of George Lucas's deal. She was part of the whole like George Lucas when he sold it. He's like, cool, yeah, and Kathleen is my
you got to
successor.
get Kathleen. Yeah,
Um,
I believe that's true.
but so like in general, speaking with the film, Matt, like, what are your first thoughts when you think about it? Like, what's kind of your first impression? Do you have much for complaints? Do you have much for criticisms? Or you just kind of like, yeah, like no, it's you gel with it.
No, like first thought, man. Like when I think about The Force Awakens, I think about fun. I think about the excitement of going back to the theaters to see Star Wars. Like it's always that initial excitement that I think about when I think about that film. Because just man, getting those teaser trailers. Do you remember the first one they put out there?
Oh, dude, I cried.
Like
I
that first teaser
cried
trailer was just
'cause
like
the
it was
emotions.
amazing to see the Millennium Falcon flying. And then at the
Yeah,
end, you
'cause
get
that-
Kylo's crossguard lightsaber lighting up in the forest. It was like, and then the second one, the other two beams come out, and you're like, bro, what?
Yep.
You're like, that was dope. It's funny. We just get so hyped about like the littlest things. It's like the slightest adjustment. We're like, what? That's crazy, man.
Again, man, it's because it's our childhood. It's 100% like, and that's it's nostalgia. I'll fully
Yeah,
admit,
100%.
Like, most of my love for it
that
is
whole
nostalgia.
movie is based on nostalgia. That's what sells that whole damn movie. But it worked, and they did it well.
Exactly. It's funny because so revisiting it, a couple things.
And let me just say the last thing though, like having that Han and Chewie come
Is this
into
gonna
the
be another?
Han.
Is this gonna be another 8-minute rant?
No, this is still Star Wars. This is still Force Awakens. I'm not going to Marvel or anything.
Oh no, I mean last
oh yeah, I was
episode
like,
I
let me
timed
tell you
out
that one thing.
Let me tell this last thought, and then 8 minutes later, it's like, okay,
No,
okay,
I just
okay.
want to add on to that trailer, like seeing
Yeah.
Han and Chewie come into the Falcon and him being
Well,
like,
saying
Chewie,
that we're home.
we're home. You know, like that was
Yeah.
like, there was so much emotion to there. So it is really about the nostalgia. It is about the excitement and seeing these old. It's cool catching up with characters that you haven't seen for a long time, and now they're old
100%.
as hell. It was cool, man. I loved the potential of what this film offered.
And it did, and
it delivered on that film.
potential. This film
Yeah,
did.
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, the one film delivered on the idea.
Yeah. So revisiting it. So I watched the first half of it because I realized I should go to sleep and be a responsible adult.
Always a good
and not
call.
stay up till 3 in the morning watching a movie that I've seen
Yeah.
probably 20 times since it came out, which is pretty impressive for it only coming out in 2015.
Yeah.
But a couple things I noted. One is there is some really rough dialogue. Like there's some really kind of clunky dialogue here and there. Like right out the gate where Max von Sydow says to like Poe Dameron where he's like talking about the princess and is like, "Oh, she'll always be royalty." And then Poe's response is like, "Oh, she isn't that." And it's like, why wouldn't you just have BB-8 come in right after the like royalty line? Because like it was just this awkward like moment of like, yeah, I don't know where else this scene is gonna go, and it's like you guys should have had just BB-8 burst in like at royalty.
Well,
Because like it's
dude,
such an awkward
I was just like,
moment.
who is this old guy? Like, it was just.
Well, that's the thing, and I want to know. I want to know who he is.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know who this guy is, but okay, we'll just keep rolling.
But everyone
I guess.
I was talking to my buddy about it, and he's like, "Yeah, when he showed up on screen, everyone cheered." and I didn't know why. And I'm like, honestly, I think it's just because it's Max von Sydow.
Yeah.
I think it's just because of the famous actor as opposed to like, oh, this character I recognize
Like,
from this
just
thing
one
here.
old random guy.
I mean, the dude played the old man in The Exorcist, and he looks better than he did playing the old man in The Exorcist.
Yeah.
Um, so the dialogue was a little clunky, and I was just thinking about this when I was watching it, where a part of me wonders if the story would have been a little bit better overall. Like I'm talking through the three movies, if it would have been more interesting, because they set up in the crawl where it's like, hey. They need to find this map to Luke Skywalker. Leia sent her best pilot to get this map, and we meet Poe, and you think Poe is the pilot, and then we meet Rey, and instead of being some orphan child stranded on a planet, Rey is actually like the pilot that she sent to get the plans from Poe. Like it was this continuous passing of the plans to get it to Leia.
Oh yeah.
And, like, I think that would have maybe been a more interesting and compelling character. And you could have even had this, like, fun rivalry between, like, Poe and Rey. And not have them meet. Like, do the same thing where, like, maybe they don't meet until the end of Last Jedi. Or they meet, like, halfway through Last Jedi. Or something like that. And there's just this rivalry between these two characters who think they're the best pilot. But they never encounter the other person who thinks they're the best pilot.
That would be something.
That would have been, I think that would have been a bit more interesting and compelling as opposed to the continuous, like, oh, orphan special child.
And interesting in the fact that she's already part of the Resistance. So you're following this character who's already kind of like established in that world. That'd be interesting.
And again, you could still have Finn have the same arc where he like breaks away and pretends to be in the Resistance the entire time, and like Rey, if Rey's a part of it, she's like, oh, like you're part of the Resistance. Like I've never met you, but like okay, like I trust you. And it just like you could play with that, and you could actually have his journey pay off a bit more. Like there are things that could have made Force Awakens better. I'll fully admit that.
Yeah, okay, keep going. I'll let you finish your thought. I won't interrupt. I'm sorry. Don't hit me.
Oh, but my thought was, I can't. You're on.
Through the screen.
I would if I was in person.
God damn it! I broke my monitor.
My final thought, and it was just literally this. It's just regardless of the things that could have been done better with Force Awakens, it is still a good film for what it is.
For sure.
For what was produced and what the decisions they made, it still works really well.
When you accept it, when you accept what it is, like anything.
They're just decisions they could have made that would have made it more interesting, and would have definitely lent itself better to the sequels than what we did.
For sure, like especially going forward, especially when you talk about different character arcs and stuff. But now when we're talking about the beginning and like the opening crawl, that just reminds me of one of the things that just turned me off, like kind of right away to this movie. And then like I got back involved and I was like, okay, whatever, let's just keep rolling. This is how it is. No big deal. Was the fact that we were pretty much starting right where A New Hope started. It's like there was Jedi, but now they're all killed again by a dark Skywalker again. It's like, what? How does this happen a second time? You know what I mean? Like that was my one frustration coming into this film. And it was
because we wanted to see the Jedi.
Well, we want to see the continuation of that story, right? And it felt like they're just like, we were going to continue it, but now we're just going to reset everything. That's kind of what it felt like. It was like a reset, right? The galaxy just reset, the same power structures as we were initially brought in. And that was no doubt to cash in on the nostalgia of the whole thing. No doubt there. And have that same film. Like, there's a reason we started on a desert planet. Like, there's a reason there's still X-Wings and TIE Fighters and Star Destroyers. And, you know, it's all to cash in on those same ideas. There's a reason there's a Death Star Star Killer base. You know, there's a reason for those things, and that was to cash in on the nostalgia, and it worked for the most part. But that was the one thing that really did bug me, was the fact that we were coming into this new trilogy, into this new film, and it was just like, we just reset everything again. So everything that really happened up until, you know, after episode 6, it's like, we just reset. Like, there were some cool things that happened, but now we're just resetting to the status quo. So that kind of bugged me. And that was always a thing. We even talked about this outside the podcast. Even for myself, and we'll talk about that as we continue on discussing these different movies in this trilogy, And this is a common theme for me across this thing is their constant reliance on the old trilogy and their constant reliance on trying to dig out those little nostalgia nuggets. And while that worked well in this movie, they needed to move past that for this trilogy to really feel like its home.
No, exactly. And like a lot of people, like I've talked to a lot of people who really try and say like, "Oh, Last Jedi's nothing like Empire," and like honestly, no. There's a lot of beat for beats that are the exact same
It's quite
from Empire to.
it's quite similar in the same way that Force Awakens is similar to A New Hope, right?
And that's
It's
where,
not
like,
exactly the same, but you got those same beats and like those hints of the sameness. Even like the difference between
Rise
Hoth
is-
happening at the beginning and then Crate at the end. That's a slight
Yep.
difference, but they're the same structurally.
I mean,
They're very much
asteroid
the same,
chase
right?
versus asteroid chase versus space chase. It's the
Exactly,
same thing.
exactly.
Like,
Yeah. Going to this
them
like
going to a
fancy
weird-
ass cool planet. Like
yep. Going to a weird planet with weird aliens on
Slightly-
it to train to be a Jedi.
like slightly different, but yet still the same, right? Like but
And that's where like Rise is the most different, but at the same time there's still a lot of beats in Rise.
well,
that are
especially once you
very
get to the
similar
end, right?
Return.
Like, and again, it's not like exact beats. Like, not everything's identical. They do have things
But
that
it's
do different
close
things,
enough.
but it's close enough that you're really echoing a lot of the things, and that and it's meant to do that, right? Because they're trying to pull that nostalgia out of you. And I'm just saying,
But again,
those
it
are the
works
things
well
that-
for the first film.
yes, but you can't keep relying on. That was the problem, though, right? Like, you have to break away, and we'll keep talking about
Let
that
go.
as we go, but.
Yeah, like again, and that's
Because
where,
you'll
like,
hear it.
I
I'll
think-
talk about it all the time. I'll talk about it all the time.
I think that's the frustrating thing, though, is again we both like, and this is kind of where like the conversation is. This conversation is difficult with this because it's not one of our favorite Star Wars films where we could just gush about. Like I could talk about like points of it that I really like because there's a lot that I do
Yeah,
really
I
enjoy.
agree.
But it's not our favorite. It's not a favorite enough to gush about. But there's nothing really bad to complain about either. Like it's such a just a solid.
It's a really
movie that
solid
it's, like,
film. Yeah.
and both of us are just like, yeah, like it's good, and it's like, well, what else? Well, it's good. Come on, like it's like
What do you think about the character arcs in this one? Like, were you happy
set
with
up
like all
really
like
cool-
kind of
they
all
set
three of them,
up-
or what are your main thoughts there on that?
I liked Ray. Oh, I love Ray. I love Ray as a character, and I get so mad when people get upset with her saying she's a Skywalker at the end of the trilogy because I think that's such a stupid nitpick to have. Like literally, you can choose. I can go and legally change my last name to whatever I want it to be at any point. Why are you upset? Well, she's not really a Skywalker. She can't really choose that. And it's like, literally, yes, you can. This is a thing you can do in our world. I think it was executed. I don't think it was
It
executed
was executed
well.
terribly.
But her making that choice at the end does line up with her themes throughout, where it's like
Except
she doesn't have
in
a
the
family.
final film, where like part of the theme was like accepting who you are, and
Oh,
like,
I know that
your
again,
family
it was
line
still
doesn't
a mess.
determine who you are. But yeah, anyway, keep going.
But it's still landing on that though, and her just being like, you know what? Yeah, I'm a Skywalker. That's who I am. I'm fine with that. And it's set up in this film. It's kind of continued in Last Jedi, and then again, Rise was a mess. But that's the thing. I love her journey. I love Daisy Ridley's charisma.
Yeah,
And
he's pretty
just like
great.
her smile, her naive joy of what the world is just it's delightful.
Especially in this
It's
one,
so,
right? Especially in this one, it's just
she bypassed the compressor and she was so
she was so
happy.
She was so hyped
Like-
about herself. Yeah, no, I agree.
No, like, and she was good. Like, John Boyega and Finn. Finn is the most robbed character of anything ever. Like, he was such a good character.
Yeah.
And he was set up so well, and John Boyega acted the crap out of him in all three films.
Yeah.
But, like, he goes on this amazing journey and overcomes his whole fear of the First Order in this film. And then, nope, we have to have him redo that in the second film. Nope, he has to redo that in the third film.
Well,
And
it's
it's like-
not. It's not even that he redoes it. They just don't go any further with anything else, right?
Well, but the thing is, the beginning of Last Jedi, he's running away again, and it's like, okay, but we got over this. We literally had him get over this.
He's not running away. Like, he's literally going to conflict.
Yes, he
no,
is.
he's going to confront the problems, right?
No, he's no, John Boyega, like not John Boyega, Finn initially
Oh, trying to
is
get on
getting in the
the
escape pod
escape
to
pod.
go and find Rey and convince her to run away again. It's literally that's Rey needs me and we got to get out of
Or
here.
to save her or
That's
whatever. Don't
we
come
got to
back
get
to
away.
the ship. Yeah. I think that was a different
Yeah, like
motivation. I don't think it was the same as the first one, but
well, again, it's similar notes, and that's the thing is like it's one of those things of he just kind of had a similar arc throughout, but not a connected arc. It was just kind of each movie he was back to square one, and didn't really develop much. Poe was weird because he's absent for a good chunk of this film, and Poe didn't really need an arc.
no.
Like he was a good character who didn't need to grow and change. He was good. And then the second one took that character that we knew that was like, oh, well, he's a developed character. He's just a good character. And they're like, well, now we have to completely make him incompetent. And like they did.
We need to make him an egotistical a-hole.
And they did. And it didn't work for me. It just was like, okay, so
Well,
like,
a lot of it was forced too, like, because there's a lot of things that happened in 8 where it's like, that doesn't even make sense. Like, why wouldn't you just, whatever, but yeah.
And then in episode 9, again, same thing. They regressed him back to the beginning that he was at episode 8, but then tried to keep him being the leader that he was in episode 7, and it was so much conflict of what his character was. So like for me, it's like the arcs started off really strong for these new characters in this first film.
Yeah.
And then no one knew what they were doing with any of them
After that.
two.
Like, you're right. Like, especially Finn. It was just like, bro, what? Like, just complete waste. What you could do with like a stormtrooper's history and like how he developed and grew. Like, there's so many potential ways you could take that and directions you could take that. But they're like, nah, we're good. We got the most out of it at 7. That's it. And the fact that he could even wield a lightsaber in the first place in episode 7, even though he wasn't the strong, even though he wasn't the strongest one. If you do not have the Force or any connection to the Force, you're not supposed to be able to wield a lightsaber without pretty much murdering yourself. Like, that is the Star Wars idea. I don't know if that's the same in Disney, but that was the idea in the past. There is a reason only Jedi, unless you're Grievous, right? Like, who's trained or whatever to do it. And had obviously a lot of machine assistance. And if he cut off a hand, big deal. Just put it back. But
I feel like that's a George Lucas, Dave Filoni question.
But yeah, like there was a reason. Like there was a reason that only Jedi carried lightsabers, right? And not just random people. And in the past, random people have had lightsaber type weapons. But like, it's not a guaranteed thing, I guess. And maybe that is different because a lot of the Mandalorians have the dark saber now and like the new kind of canon and how it all works. So maybe that logic isn't the same. Or maybe it's the idea that to have an effective lightsaber combat fight against another Force wielder, you probably should have the Force alongside you. That's probably more the idea.
I like the idea of him being Force sensitive. I think that's a good idea. I just wish they would have committed.
Well, but that's the thing too, right? Because they kind of, so according to that kind of ruling, because this is before Disney really changed everything going forward, back in 2015, it kind of did hint that like Poe had slight connection to the Force, and then in Episode 9, they're trying to tease that through the movie, but they don't. He's like, I just got to tell you something. And you're like, does he love her? Or like, what's going on? Until you get to the end, you're like, so he's slightly a Jedi, but that's it. Like, that's as far as you ever get, right? Like, it would have been...
And that's again, like, it's...
It would have been way more interesting to have him develop further in 8, and then 9, literally Rey almost training him. You know what I mean? Like, I think 9 needed to be way further in the future. Like, I think it needed a significant time forward.
Well, and I think 8... And I think for me, 8 shouldn't have been right after Episode 7. Like, there
should have been some time in there as well, yeah.
Exactly. You let your characters grow a bit, because that's also what really benefits that original
trilogy.
Yeah. Is there's
growth in between.
At least a couple of years in between.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, and then you have the prequel series where it's like between Episode 1 and 2, 10 years have passed, and it's like, that's too much time.
That's a lot.
That episode Episode 3 and 4. Hey guys, remember that war we talked about? Remember that war that we've been building up since the first movie? Guess
It
what? You get to
happened
see the
in
tail end of
between.
it.
You see the
It
beginning and
happened.
the end. Yeah.
Yeah, that's basically it. It's like, well, we can't fit a whole war in a movie. I mean, people have done that before.
But like, yeah, no, I agree with you on that front. I'm looking at episode 7, and I just think, man, there's so much. There's like just lot of juicy little nuggets through Finn's arc that you could have touched on and expanded upon, and they never did it. Like they just never had a purpose for him
Well,
after getting them into Starkiller Base, and
it's
helping Ray
because
fight Kylo.
the first two movies of this trilogy are both first movies.
Yeah.
Like the way that they handled Force Awakens, it's the first movie. The way they handled Last Jedi was like a first movie. And then the problem was, then they get to Rise of Skywalker and they're like, well, crap, we've only had one first movie before. I guess we just need to rush and put two movies into one.
I don't. I like your idea. I think that's funny. I don't fully agree with it. I think they did a lot of things in Last Jedi that were definitely a move forward. Just a lot. They just didn't move the characters forward. You know what I mean? They moved Rey forward a little bit, and that was the one thing too. Like I liked Rey's arc again in Force Awakens, her being naive and excited to understanding and discovering she had this power, and to accepting it, right? Like to really embracing it and letting it in. But then
the problem is,
but
though,
then
is
you
like,
get to but then you get to 8, and it doesn't really even become about her power growth or her teaching or her learning, even though those things are in there. It ultimately always comes back to like her family and like who she is and where she comes from. And I felt like that was I felt like that was kind of a, not a waste. I just felt like there was too much focus on that because and I liked what they did saying she was the kid of nobody. And then when in 9 they're like, never mind, she's Palpatine's granddaughter. Cause like just having her as a nobody and like her being force sensitive is the way the Jedi have operated for a millennia. Like the kids who are in the Jedi Order did not come from force sensitive families because the Jedi weren't supposed to have kids, right? Like it was just they found these force sensitive kids and brought them to the temple and trained them to be Jedi. That's how it worked, right?
Well,
like there weren't like family generational lines of Jedi. Like that was kind of a Skywalker thing. So
well, like it kind of also it bugs me too because like she became for some reason in episode 8 and then it carried to episode 9. She just became a know-it-all. Like she's like, no, I now have realized I have the Force, therefore I know everything. Even though she didn't really know what the Force or the Jedi were, she became a know-it-all, and no one checked her. No one put her in check. Luke kind of tried, but then it very much was like, well, yeah, I guess you are right, and I am being a bit of a jerk here. But like, no one put her in her place, and that was really weird too. Is there was just,
but she lost the character lost that episode 7 charm, right? That excitement about the world. That like you said, like I bypassed the power converter or whatever. She's so hyped about that.
Bypassed the compressor.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, and Han Solo's like, okay, like,
have you seen that video? Have you seen that video where it's that scene when it's like she's like she pulls the thing and stops beeping, and he's, what did you do? And it's like, I bypassed the compressor, and then it cuts the outside, and the Millennium Falcon explodes.
Jeez, that's hilarious. No, I haven't seen that.
Bypassed the compressor.
That would have been hilarious.
I'll send it to you.
That'd be gold.
It's amazing.
That'd be gold. But no, like, but like, yeah, she lost that excitement going forward, right? Like, she came into episode 7 discovering the world of Star Wars, discovering the Force, discovering she had these powers, discovering all these things, and she was very excited about it for the most part, right? She was pretty impressed with herself. And then you get to like 8 and 9, and she's not that hyped about it, but like you said, she becomes like a know-it-all. All of a sudden, she knows all the right things.
I know
everything.
everything.
It's just,
I know what's right and what's wrong.
and it's just,
Kylo should listen to me.
And it's just like, I don't dislike Rey. I like Rey as the character. I just, again,
don't like what they did.
The
with
consistent theme for this trilogy is like episode 7. They set up really great, awesome characters, and for the most part after that, either didn't do too much with them or kind of took them in a different direction that I thought is not fully taking advantage of their potential as a character. Kylo Ren was a character that I actually liked. Not everyone liked him, but I dug Kylo Ren. I was like, yeah,
I
no.
liked where they started
I,
him,
l-
and
I like I liked him up to episode 9. I liked him in 8 too. I was like, this makes sense. I like this. Like his motivations, like I think he was the strongest Rin character consistently through the trilogy.
if they explained his origin better,
Not even that,
because
but
his whole,
you
because like to
understood his
me,
motivation. You understood who he was as a character, and where they were taking his character made sense.
to a point, like I really don't. And this again touches more on Last Jedi than anything else, but the whole like I turned to the dark side because I was being manipulated, then my uncle tried to kill me, and it's like, okay, all right. Whereas like I liked the idea of him like basically deifying Darth Vader, like talking just with
Yeah,
Force Awakens. Like I was thinking about it, and just that whole scene of him talking to Vader's skull
that was
is
pretty
so
sweet.
chilling.
Yeah,
It's so chilling, and I love it. Where he's literally it's praying. He's praying. He's like, "Grandfather, give me the strength."
I will finish what you started. I loved
And
it.
like,
Yeah,
and again, like not knowing his history, not knowing who Vader actually was and what Vader stood for, and then just like obviously being manipulated into like
understood. Like,
thinking it
yeah,
is.
idolizing Darth Vader, but not understanding Anakin and what happened to Anakin. Yeah,
And I loved it. Like it was so again, it was super chilling and it was so good. And it just like and then that doesn't go anywhere in episode 8 and 9. They just don't they just completely abandon that.
like the fact that he came to this point of like idolization of his grandfather is really a really cool idea. The helmet is there in episode 9, but I don't think we don't see it in episode 8 again, eh?
Nope.
The helmet doesn't do anything in episode 9. It just like
It's just there.
it's just there.
Symbolism.
Yeah. But yeah, no. I get
And
that.
like and
Like
that's the
that would
thing,
be
is like
cool, but and I think what they're just reflecting was that like whole it was the idolization of Darth Vader, and like between what happened to him and Luke is also one of those things that happened in Last Jedi where it's like this doesn't just really quite make sense. Like things just don't quite add up.
yeah.
Like unless there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes, like they were very contentious with each other in the first place, or Kylo was really digging into the dark side. Like, but we don't really get that full grasp of that. Like that's never really fully communicated. Luke's like, I could see the darkness in his heart already, but it's like, but we're not seeing that. You're just telling us. So you just telling us doesn't make us feel the full weight of this moment. It's just the fact that it's like Ben destroyed the cabin because he thought you were gonna stab him. You know what I mean? Or and then they give you multiple versions of it, so it's just like now you're just messing with people's heads even more. Like let's get a consistent version. But we're not talking about
No,
8
that's
anyway. But no, I
but
liked
that's
where they
exactly
started
it. And
off
that's
in
where like
7.
yeah, because you're like and again, like they didn't really bury the lead. They didn't really hide the fact that he was Ben Solo.
No,
Like you
no,
knew
they told you right off
you
the
knew
bat.
he was a and like that's cool. And like I'm fine with that. And like the scene between him and Han is so heartbreaking.
Yeah, on the bridge,
Like
man,
everything with that was really good. Like even like I know it's a meme now, but I love the whole like I know what I have to do, but I don't have the strength to.
to do it.
And man, the amount of like theories and conspiracy theories that like came out of this, where like Ben was actually a secret double agent the whole time, and Han pulled the trigger.
Yeah,
Man, no one remembers that. Everyone talks about like no one talks about the crazy theories that came out when Force
dude, there
Awakens
was
happened.
so many theories, so many.
And Palpatine was one of the big theories. And then when he showed up episode 9, everyone's like, "Well, he came out of nowhere." And it's like, this isn't what we were saying in 2015. If this happened, if this was the second film and he showed up, everyone would be like, "Yeah, I knew it. I knew it all along." But because there was that.
But that's the thing, right? He didn't show up in the next film. He
I know,
wasn't
he
even
showed up in
hinted
the
at. It
last
was
one.
just like a fan
Exactly.
crazy speculation in the first one. And then, but that's what I mean. That was the problem with 9. The biggest problem with 9 was like they're like, fan theories, we're throwing them all in here. Like
Yeah, everything's great. Like I was half expecting.
like all fan theory shit, and I was like, oh my god.
That's the thing. I was half expecting it to be revealed that Han actually did pull the trigger the whole time.
Yeah, like there is so much fan theory stuff in 9 that some of that came from Force Awakens, like 2015, which would make sense because they're both directed by J.J. Abrams, right? So it would make sense that he was attuned into that. But
it's, man, like,
yeah.
and that's the thing, is like, that would have been cool. That would have been a cool angle. I had the crazy theory that it was actually Leia was behind the whole thing. Leia was Snoke was my crazy theory, and I loved that.
Yeah.
Because it's like, yeah, no, and she sends Han to his death. She knows. Like, that's the thing. She's manipulating, like, her son.
Leia has turned to the dark side.
Yeah, and that would have been interesting.
She's the new Palpatine playing both sides, eh? Like, oh, damn. What a twist.
Exactly. And no one would have seen it coming.
No one would have saw it coming at all. They'd be pissed off about
like,
it, but, wouldn't see it coming.
That's because Star Wars fans are always going to be pissed off.
Yeah, there's always something. There's always something.
You're never going to make a Star Wars fan happy.
No.
They're only happy when they hate the movies they're watching.
I remember how many people were upset about that film when it came out. They're like, it's just A New Hope over again. And it does, like we talked about, hit those similar beats, but because it follows very strictly the hero's journey, just like A New Hope did, right?
Well, and again,
but
you can look at Phantom Menace and say the same thing.
Well, I know, that's what I'm saying, right? But the hero's journey in 4 and 7 is much more similar than 1 to 4 or 7. Like, they're structurally different films. They follow this. There's a lot of similar beats, but they're very structurally different. Whereas these two were like damn near spot on, very, very similar. And I'm like, you know what? One of the things that would have changed that is literally just changing the planets that they go to. Like, if Rey would have started off in like a Takodana type planet where it's all green and shit and it's just beautiful, no one would have been like, it's the same movie. But it's like, you start out in a fucking desert. Like, you yeah, people are going to be like, this is the same movie. That's literally the only thing. And then after that, like, it keeps connecting. You start in a desert, you find a droid that leads into the rest of the movie. You meet the mentor, Yeah, funny stuff.
Well, and again,
you have a Death Star.
There's a lot of beats you can line. Again, I stand by it. You can line up Phantom Menace's beats pretty similarly. They're kind of like, it's like if you took the Phantom Menace beats, or if you took A New Hope and hit shuffle on your iPod with it, because you eventually find the orphan Force-sensitive boy on the planet. The mentor eventually dies. They have a Death Star-esque Death Star-esque thing that they have to blow up in order so that they can win the war. Like, there's a lot of very similar beats in Phantom Menace. And
but it's just hidden well. It's just hidden better. That's all I'm saying.
Well,
and structurally, it is different. Like, there's similar beats, but where those beats show up in the film.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
And who those characters are, yeah, they're different places, but for sure, it's funny. I had another question here for you. Totally forgot it though. Just as I was talking and laughing about it, but how do you think they handled bringing back like Han and Leia and some of the classic characters in Episode 7?
Great. The only characters I have a problem with that they brought back was 3PO and R2-D2, because 3PO was just dumb. They just made him dumb. Like, the best way I can describe it is basically episodes 4, 5, and 6. That's C-3PO at his prime.
Yeah.
He's actually a character.
Yeah.
Episodes 1, 2, and 3, he's a baby. He is a child and doesn't understand a darn thing. He's just dumb. And then episodes 7, 8, and 9 is senile old man 3PO, who also doesn't... Oh, Mr. Solo, you probably don't understand, or you probably don't recognize me with one new arm. 3PO.
That disappears 3PO, by the end of the movie magically.
Didn't he have a silver leg through most of one of, like, the original trilogy?
Yeah, I think so.
So, like, yeah, like, that's dumb. It's a dumb thing. Yeah, it's funny. Haha, great. But, like, no, you're making this beloved character an idiot.
Yeah.
And then R2-D2 is just, like, sleeping the whole time, where he has a map to Luke. Why didn't he just go with Luke?
Okay. So here's also, I agree with you. I think most of the characters were done pretty well. I really liked Han Solo and where they put him,
Han and Chewie were
and
great.
like their character arcs were like was their like Han's character arc was fantastic. I thought it was like the best one of the film.
And Leia was good too. It was nice to see her
Like
back.
in charge and like rocking shit like a boss. But like yeah, like Han like trying to running from his family, running from the war, running from everything that was happening. And like to find him just being some like scum smuggler again was so funny. Like,
But then as soon as he encounters someone in need, he's like becomes a father.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
I love that.
yeah, absolutely. I agree too, man. I love that. The other character, like Luke, even though he was in it for like 10 seconds, the one thing that I have a hard time following, and maybe you figured this out and you can explain it to me. Maybe I'm just dense and I don't get it. This whole movie was based around the map to Skywalker, right? Like that was the whole point and everything trying to, the whatchamacallit. What do you call those?
The holomap?
No, not the whole map, but like literally in film making. What do you call that again? I can't remember. MacGuffin. Yeah, that was like the whole MacGuffin, like the whole time trying to get these maps to Skywalker and figure out where he was, right?
Yeah.
Who the hell left the maps when Luke doesn't even want to be found in the next movie? He's like, I didn't want to be found.
Oh, I know.
It's like, well, who the F left the maps then? Because one's in R2, so clearly you left the map. Who put it on a stick drive and threw it across the galaxy? I'm assuming you. So at some point, you assume someone was going to come find you. But if you never wanted to be found and was like, I'm just going to die here, why did you make a map, bro? Like, so I don't know where the maps came from. That's my thing. Unless he needed him to get to the planet, but I don't know.
So well, that could be it, is he needed the map to get to the planet, and then he scattered them. But again, why would you scatter them into two pieces?
And how would you know, like, how would anyone know just finding this map? Like, this is the map to Skywalker. Like,
and that's where,
unless it's very specifically was made to be the map to Skywalker.
And so that's where, again, I feel like if Last Jedi would have done it a bit differently, specifically explain the fact that literally this map is only to be used in an emergency. He's going to isolation, but in your most darkest, dire needs, he will come back. And he will save the day. He'll come and make a difference.
But then he didn't.
And that's the thing.
Like, but then he was like, how did you find me? It's like, I'm like, what?
We used a map.
If you just watch
that
8,
you left.
If you just watch 8 and go from there, you're like, okay, I get he doesn't want to like leave the planet or whatever, and you're like, big deal. But if you watch 7 and go to 8, you're like, but then who the hell left the freaking map that we just spent the whole movie doing, like trying to find? And that's always been the biggest question mark in this film for me. Like,
and that's because Episode 8 specifically was meant to be an anti-Star Wars film. It was meant to take every single thing we knew about Star Wars and flipped it on its head.
Yeah.
It's different now. It's different. And it's like, okay. And that's where, but the thing is, the film leading up to it was a traditional Star Wars film. Yeah. Where, again, it makes sense. The map of Skywalker is kept in 2 separate places so that the Empire can't find him, the First Order can't find him, but in the darkest dire needs, the Rebels can go and find him. They can get the help from the guy that they need to help him. And if they would have explained that and then had like, yeah, but I've changed my mind. I should have destroyed that map when I had the chance. Even a line like that would have fixed it.
But that's exactly that's the funny thing, right? When it comes to this trilogy. Because by the time we got to 9, we knew for sure they didn't have a plan. But clearly there's even breadcrumbs to tell us they had no clue what was going to happen after 7 already.
Oh, 100%.
Because if they would have known, they would have put that shit in there. Like, but even after 7, there's still a year before you would really get into, filming 9 or filming 8. Like, why didn't you be like, oh, this happened in 7, let me make these slight adjustments here? It's like, nah.
But even if you look at the episode 4, 5, and 6, like, Yoda goes to Dagobah. Ben just knows that he's on Dagobah and tells Luke. He's just like, hey, go to the Dagobah system. That's where he is. And Luke knows what the Dagobah system is.
Yeah.
And so you're telling me that there's still uncharted parts of that galaxy 30 years later when like they can just like go to the outer rim whenever they want and be like, "Well, I know this entire area because hey."
Yeah, Dagobah's clearly a mapped planet, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, but that no one goes to?
I guess so.
Dagobah's not even the
Well, it's just
planet.
like
Dagobah's
a swamp, man.
But the thing is, Dagobah's not the planet, it's the system. You must go to the Dagobah system, and then he happened to find the right planet.
Maybe he tried others, they just cut it out. It's like, nope, not
And
here.
that's-
And then he crashed in a swamp and was like, shit.
Oh man, if only I could find Yoda. Oh.
But I mean, like, yeah, there's always those kind of like things in film where, like, you just need to communicate a point and the character needs to go there, right? Like that, you don't
Yeah,
need
and
to
that's-
expand upon it.
So, but that's the thing. That's fine. But then the sequel trilogy confuses that whole thing.
Yeah.
So, speaking of wasted characters or characters that might be wasted, Maz Kanata.
Yeah.
They set her up. I was very interested.
That's another one that was very interesting in
sore spot.
7 and then nothing after that. Like,
Well, that's because for some reason in episode 8 they had her. I think it's because she was shooting Black Panther. They had her character.
could have been.
They had her character just.
No, wait,
dealing
when did
with, like, yeah, it would be around the same time. Because Last Jedi came out in 2017.
Oh, 17. Right.
And Black Panther came out in 2018.
Literally months later. Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah.
But again, like, it's just such a waste of a character where it's like, oh, I'm doing union disputes. When it's a CG character, think about it. It is a CG character. You could have had a stand-in for her and then had her come and do motion capture later or do the
voice, yeah.
There were ways around it. And, like, I don't hate Rose as a character. But you could have just had Maz Kanata be that character with Finn on his journey, being like a mentor to this kid who's like lost.
Well, that would have been an interesting
lost his
idea.
way. Yeah, you actually have her present. She would know who the friggin' people is she's supposed to meet anyway.
Yeah.
As opposed to like them just guessing. And then again, they knew they. Sorry, that's the Last Jedi rant. I'm not going to get into it. I'll
Yeah,
save
you
for
gotta
the
save
next time
that
we
one because I got an idea with that section too. But yeah, we'll save that.
But that's again, like, she was interesting and she was set up to tell us a story for another time about how she found Luke's friggin' lightsaber.
That's a story for another time. You just know right
That
there.
never happened?
It's never happening, or it's in a book, a comic, or some other sort of medium.
From what I understand, they have never actually explained it.
Yeah, I don't think so.
But then why say it?
Because they had potential plans that they thought about. You know, there was I can't remember if it was a script or what it was, or if it was a leak. For episode 7 was supposed to start out with like a shot on Luke's hand with his lightsaber like floating in space or whatever. How it got there, I don't know. But that was apparently supposed to be like an opening shot or something in the film. Obviously it got cut and removed. It wasn't in there.
You can tell that's 100% why there was so much focus put on that lightsaber.
But like there was supposed to be like this shot. Like apparently, like originally the idea was that the lightsaber and I'm assuming Luke's hand was significant. Now, when it came to coming up to episode 9, and we saw like Dark Ray in that one trailer, and we're like, oh, is she a clone or something? That'd be tight. I always thought, because that lightsaber was so connected to her, that once we got into episode 9, I thought for sure she was going to be like a Skywalker clone. Like that would have made sense to me. Like she was cloned from the DNA of Luke's hand or some shit like that, right?
Yep.
That's totally where I thought they were going. Because I was like, given that opening,
abandoned.
that would make sense. And like, because that's another one of the big loopholes to me is like, why would that lightsaber call out to her at all? Like, it belonged to his father, it belonged to him, now it belongs to you. Which
Again,
one of
they
these
set
things
up-
does not belong?
And that's like they set up so many good things. They set up so many interesting
cool ideas.
things.
Yeah. And the fact that
and
they
then
never
nothing.
showed it in the movie is clearly, they didn't have to ever follow up on it. But like it was an interesting. When I read about that, I was like, that would make things make way more sense in this galaxy. But
I mean, a lot of things would have made again. Force Awakens. That's what makes me so mad.
and that's why it's like a good film. Like it's a good starting place. It sets up a lot of good lines. There are
A
some
lot of good questions.
inconsistencies. And like you're right, it does bring up those questions. And I think Force Awakens honestly has been made not terribly, but just a slight bit worse because of the sequels that have come out. Because the questions that they set up never really get answered or touched on a very
And
fulfilling
that's
way. Or the character arcs that they start up and build never get ended on a very fulfilling way. And that kind of honestly cheapens that movie a bit. Because you get so excited, but then you're like, oh, this isn't going anywhere interesting. Okay, okay, okay. So it's honestly like to
it's
me, the whole trilogy has made that movie a little bit worse.
one. It's weird for me though because I can revisit it and still feel just as hopeful and exciting.
But
And
then
I can
reality
literally,
kicks in and it's
I'll
like,
go
God
through the whole movie and
damn.
be like, ah, I can't wait to see what happens next. And then I go to put on Last Jedi,
You're
and
like,
I'm like, I
no.
don't want to see what happens next.
Oh no, I've already seen what happens next.
It's yeah, and it's like, but during the movie, I get lost in it still because it still has that magic that was Star Wars.
What did you think of like the cinematography and like the combat and stuff?
Perfect.
It was
The
really good,
cinematography
right?
was great.
It was really good.
The combat is a bit rough at the beginning, like with Rey's fighting and stuff
Yeah, with
like
the
that. But then
staff
you
and
get to the
stuff.
lightsaber, yeah. But it improves as it goes on.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, man, like the vibe was Star Wars, and actually a lot of that too. Like the score, I love the score.
Dude, this
I think it is one of the best Star Wars soundtracks to come out of the saga. Like it is phenomenal,
the new character
and that's why
themes are
like
like money, man. Like Ray's theme, I love
is
Ray's theme.
great. The First Order's theme, and it doesn't sound like Star Wars, but it sounds like Star Wars.
Yeah, it's so good, man.
And then even the First Order, the bum, bum, bum,
Bum,
bum,
bum,
bum,
bum,
bum,
bum, bum,
bum,
bum.
bum, bum.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
that's
like
good.
it like chills.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, and that's where like Last Jedi soundtrack and Rise of Skywalker soundtrack were still compared to Force Awakens, were both disappointments.
I don't know if they were disappointments. I think Last Jedi. See again, and I have to like sit down. I can't remember if I did listen to Rise of Skywalker or not. We'll have to talk about the soundtracks when we get to them. I thought Last Jedi soundtrack was pretty solid because I thought they added a lot of cool, at least character themes to that because they
Seeing
still
like
had First Order. They still had. Did they have March of the Resistance or was that in the
no, that was in Force
Okay,
Awakens.
so that like they had a lot of great ones that came over from Force Awakens, but they also added like Luke's theme as well, and I really enjoy Luke's theme in
So like so
that film as well.
the story what happened with Last Jedi is apparently
Or wait, or did that happen also in Force Awakens?
I think so. But in Last Jedi, normally John Williams sits down with the director and does like a spec thing where you sit down and you're like, "Hey, this is kind of the veal. This
Right.
we're gonna do this part here. I'm gonna write new pieces here and there." For Last Jedi, Ryan Johnson just basically took all of John Williams' old music, pieced it together in the movie, and said, "Just write this." So there's like no real new. Even the Canto Bite stuff is someone else's music. It's not even John Williams' original composition. Like man, like if you look into it, the Last Jedi soundtrack is kind of messed up.
I'll have to listen to that one then, because I do like elements of it. Some really stood out to me for sure through the film.
And then for me with Rise, a lot of people didn't listen to it because like stopped caring at that point. But Rise has some really
I
good
didn't even
tracks.
notice the tracks though. Like that's the
That's
problem,
because they
man.
got buried in the movie.
I didn't
and it's so
even know. Like I'm
dumb.
watching the movie, and like if I think of every Star Wars movie, I can think of themes or music that has stood out.
Yeah.
And when I think of Rise of Skywalker, I can think of not. And I am a musical person. Those
John
things stick
Williams,
out to me, and I noticed jack shit through the whole movie.
dude. Apparently, John Williams wrote like 4.5 hours worth of new music, brand new music for Rise of Skywalker, and they maybe used half an hour of it. The rest are all old tracks from other movies.
And I think even just the sound mixing and how they mixed them, they must have
Oh,
like
100%.
they must
Yeah.
have really buried some of that music in the background.
But if you listen to some of the themes by
'Cause I'm just
themselves,
like,
just on
damn.
an album,
Because I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I'll have to.
no, because you can't hear them in the movie, but in Force Awakens you can.
Yeah.
In Force Awakens, there's a focus on that, and then something got lost in translation. I don't know what the frick happened. And that's just where it bugs me, man. Like it's, and that's it. That's the thing is like Force Awakens could have been the beginning of Lightning in a Bottle round 2, and then they just tossed it by the wayside. They're just like, well, we don't know what we're doing, so
Well, they never knew what they were doing, clearly. At the end of the day,
it looked like they did. It looked like they did. There was hope.
there is definitely hope. What did you think of like and this kind of covers most of the trilogy, but when it comes to specifically Force Awakens, what did you think of like the different like designs and stuff? And I said they were pretty much the same, brought over from the new trilogy, but redesigned. What did you
was a
think of those
logical-
redesigns? And do you think they like fit well, or were they like kind of like it's just the same thing, or did you actually like the slight differences?
It was a more logical design step forward than it was from episode 1, 2, and 3 to episode 4, 5, and 6.
Sure.
Like it made sense that technology in the span of 30 years would have only like, okay, well, these are the peak designs. Okay, we're going to tweak them a little bit to make them better, but overall, why would they change that much? Even the stormtrooper, like I love the First Order stormtroopers.
Me too. I'm
Those
on the
guys
same
look
page of that
great.
one with you. Yeah. I love how the black
like-
comes down and connects. I'm like, oh, I was
Right.
like, when I first saw the first images, I was like, yeah, that's pretty tight, man. I like that. I like that.
But when you look at especially the ships that are in episodes 1, 2, and 3, none of it makes sense because they're all just a hodgepodge of like different pieces
Of different
stuff
ships.
from like, and it's like, okay, well, I can, especially by the time that we reach episode 3, okay, those ones are supposed to be X-wings, but why are the clones flying the supposed X-wing prototypes?
Yeah.
Okay, these are the Jedi starfighters turned into kind of TIE fighters. Okay, but why are the Jedi only flying those? Okay, the Jedi starfighter from episode 2 kind of looks like an A-wing. Kind of.
Yeah.
Okay.
You could
like,
you
and
could
none of it
probably
made-
you could probably explain the more dramatic shift, granting like the whole change of the universe, like galactic government, like, and just how many things probably shifted with that change from going from Republic to Empire. I could see
But I
that would
think you
probably
could
make
have
some
had-
pretty dramatic changes as far as like construction and design.
But they could have just
those
had
types of
original
things.
designs. That answer would have made more sense if there wasn't a clear X-wing and TIE fighter prototype in episode.
Well, it's not even
3.
prototype. I think it's just gradually, it's like like they just took different ideas. It's like how anything else is made, right? Like not everything is like completely from scratch. Like there's always little inspirations that come from other
They
things.
had spaceships already. They were already traveling in space.
I'm not saying they didn't have them. I'm just saying it doesn't bug me
And
as
that's
much.
but that's where to me the subtle design changes in 30 years, especially of space travel. Like they're at a point where they don't really need to develop tech too much further when it comes to traveling through space. Like that is something to me where it's like I'm okay they didn't explore. Oh well, it's been 30 more years. What technical advances has happened?
Yeah.
I'm cool with it being like no, it's pretty much the same.
Well, it's not even. I don't even know if it's technical advances. Like you said, like the technology probably still the same, but just what different designs could you bring into play? But like for me personally, like I really do like the designs for most things, and the First Order makes sense because they're the remnants of the Empire. So for them to have Imperial like designs, like the
Yeah.
TIE Fighter, but they're all a little slightly different, right? Make sense. But yeah, like I really like the X-wing design and stuff too. It was pretty cool. Like you don't have like the two circles on top and bottom. It's just one that gets split in half. Like it was
Yeah,
kind of like a
I thought that
sleeker
was
model, and I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
The way I've also described costume designs, and maybe this is me reaching, and maybe I don't know enough, but like, so you know how episodes 4, 5, and 6, it's very much the Imperials are Germans.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of cool to me because essentially, to me, you go from World War II to basically the Russian Civil War, and that's essentially what episode 7 really set up. Was like, well, if you look at if you look at how even the First Order is dressed, a lot of that is closer to like, Russian uniforms and stuff. Not so much German anymore, but a bit more Russian. And if you look at the Resistance fighters, it's a very similar design of costume, but more peasant based. Like it's interesting. It's kind of curious, and then you can hear that in the Resistance march. It's a very Russian sounding march.
Interesting.
Bum, 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 bum. Like it's like think about the music, and it's very there's Russian themes throughout, and I dig that because that's like that's history. That's cool. And then they abandoned that by episodes 8 and 9.
Well, also, there's still some German definitely left behind in the First Order because they definitely yelled a lot. I think that was one misstep.
Hey, the Russians also yell quite a bit too.
Oh no, but like Hux was like, okay, never mind. I just remembered my other point. I'm gonna try to remember my other points while I talk about this one. Another character that potentially had the potential to be pretty cool, or another couple, was Hux. Like he could he been an intimidating threat. He was definitely yelling like a German for sure in that one scene when they're blowing up the planets of the Republic.
Yes.
But he had potential to go on to be something pretty interesting. But the most I think character that like had so much potential was like scrapped was Phasma. Man, in both films, like she was so promoted to be literally like the coolest character, and then it was like, nah, man, she's just gonna get her butt whooped every time, and we're not gonna use her at all in any cool ways. I was like, bruh.
And that's where like I liked what happened to her in Force Awakens. I thought that was fun, like the whole like you're gonna get put in a garbage chute.
But it would have been cool to have her play a bigger part in 8, and they're just like, but nah. Again, 10 seconds. And it's like, she's so cool. Why wouldn't you make use of that badass looking armor, man?
Also, make her actually a badass,
That's what I'm saying.
Like, make her a threat.
That's what I'm saying. She's got a cool spiky stick in the episode 8.
In episode 7, they got the drop on her. That makes sense, right? Yeah. Episode 8, you could have built her up more, and then episode 9, you could have paid that off. Yeah. But instead, it's like, nope.
No. Just literally like toss her in the trash, man. Toss her in the trash. One of the biggest differences I found too between the First Order and the Empire, especially if you're looking at the first films, like the First Order comes across as like very children run. You know what I mean? Like they're having tantrums. They're like freaking out, like Kylo Ren and Hux, like they're just yelling all the time. Go back and watch the Empire. Like they are cold, calm, and calculated, and that makes them freaking terrifying. Like that was a big difference to me.
But the cool thing with that, like it makes sense though, because I'm
not saying it doesn't make sense. I just think I just wish they toned down the First Order a little bit, just a little bit.
Well, so the Empire, and what's cool about the Empire is it's basically recruiting regular people.
Yeah,
that's 100% what it is. Luke was gonna go to the academy to become an Imperial soldier.
Yeah.
He was, because that was what they did. They're like, the Jedi were evil. Hey, we saved you. Military propaganda. Yeah. Come join the Empire. Yeah.
What's super cool, man? We definitely do not choke our own people.
Yeah, so regular people would go and join. The First Order, however, kidnapped children. That's every person who was the First Order, from the stormtroopers up to like the deck officers and all that stuff, are kidnapped children. Until you reach a certain age,
or descendants of Imperial remnants. Yeah.
So Hux was also probably a kidnapped child.
I feel like Hux would be he would be a remnant. I'm not sure. I'm no guarantee, but
I don't. Dude,
I feel like he would be a remnant.
Hux would have been about 10, I think, when the Empire fell.
I don't know. I think he would.
Think about how old Domhnall Gleeson is, and think about it. Hux would have been a kid.
Yeah, which would make him perfect to continue on and keep moving forward.
No, that's what I mean.
Like if he was a descendant of the Empire already.
Maybe, but regardless, that's still indoctrination. That's still like.
Oh, I'm not saying he's not indoctrinated. I'm just saying he's not.
Your German thing just kind of popped through because essentially, it's like if the Hitler Youth didn't give up.
That's what I'm saying.
And
That's
like
what I'm saying.
that's again, but they wasted the potential because like I like the idea of it being a bunch of like kids who are like they don't get what they want, so they freak out
Yeah.
because they don't understand how to deal with defeat and how to retreat and come up with a better plan. They're like, no, I'm just gonna keep going, but they just completely ignore that in episode 8 and 9. Again, they just kind of like ignore any of those themes.
I really liked, yeah, like I liked Hux in 7. I learned to like really enjoy him at 8, and I thought 9 he could have had so much potential, like that rivalry between him and
They were doing
Kylo.
something
You
interesting,
know
and
what
then
I
just
mean? And then they're
nothing.
just like, never mind, never mind. He's useless. Bring in this other guy.
He's older and scarier.
Yeah, he's more Empire, right?
He's not a ginger.
Yeah, exactly. What was my other question here? What do you think of the lightsaber combat? Like, for me personally, I liked their like new style because it wasn't like it was somewhere between. I felt like episode like the original trilogy style where it's kind of like just like bam on sticks. There's a little bit of choreography, but it wasn't too fancy. You know what I mean? Like
It's because
it's not fancy, but I the one thing I do love before we get into the actual combat, and I hear your response, I loved the setting for this one. This lightsaber fight was so cool in the snowy forest. It's black, and you got the glow of those sabers just lighting up
Oh,
the
yeah.
whole place. Visually, I really liked this fight. I was like, damn, that was
perfect Christmas
that
time,
was
too.
yeah, that was top-notch Christmas lightsaber fighting, man. Loved it.
So, the best way I can put it is episodes 4, 5, and 6, especially when you look at the context of the fight, there's a lot of toying with each other. There's a lot of games. Like it's a lot of like, well, Vader doesn't just want to outright kill Obi-Wan. He wants to, taunt him. He wants to be like, "Hey, yeah, like look at who I am now. You're nothing. Look at me."
Yeah,
And
greasy
then
old
eventually
man.
he's like, yeah, and then episode 5, he knows it's his son, so he's like, "Oh no, I'm gonna play with my kid, and I'm gonna basically like, I'm gonna mess
gonna
with him.
school
I'm gonna
him."
be like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
haha." And then episode 6 is the first time you actually see someone trying to just outright kill.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And that's when Luke attacks Vader. Episodes 1, 2, and 3 was just flowery because it's like, well, they're all Jedi. We got to make them look cool.
And they're
it's like,
super.
okay.
This is like the height of the Jedi of training of combat.
The thing I like about episode 7's lightsaber fights is 110%. It was the episode 6 fight where literally the only motivation
Was to kill.
Was kill.
Yeah.
100%. Kylo was out for blood. Kylo was like, I'm going to murder these
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah.
And Rey's like, no, I'm going to murder you for hurting my friend.
It was
And
like
Finn's like, I'm going to murder you
savage
too.
and
And like,
brutal. I loved it. Yeah.
and I loved it. And then you did lose that again by the time we got to episode 8 and 9.
I
It
liked
wasn't nearly as brutal.
I liked there nah man. Okay, so 9 I completely agree with. I didn't think any of the lightsaber combat in 9 was impressive at all. Like I just did not.
I liked the fight of them on like on the Death Star. I liked that fight. But again,
See,
it wasn't really a fight. It was more of them just running around.
Yeah, exactly.
There wasn't a lot of a fight.
It wasn't like I just didn't find it interesting. And they actually cut the music at that part. I actually think there's no music during a good chunk of that fight, which is like,
Whereas-
brah, you need to have the
then-
emotional music in there.
For episode 8, the throne room fight is interesting, but it's also a mess. It's very messy. When you actually go back and look at it, it's like, okay, some of this doesn't quite line up. And it's more of that choreographed, flowery stuff from the first one.
Yeah, but I was
From like
down
the first from the trilogy.
I was that
Like,
it
it was
wasn't
good,
it wasn't quite as much because it wasn't so like flippity and whatever. It was like it was still very like because they never go as far as they do obviously in episode the first 1, 2, and 3, right? Like those
Yeah.
like Anakin versus
But it's still
Obi-Wan is
very
just like
choreographed.
yeah, it was very choreographed, but I thought it was pretty
But then
damn
if you-
cool. Like I just like kind of how it
was.
played out.
But that's where I like episode 7 the best because again it was just like straight
Yeah,
up
it was like,
no,
I'm going
this
to
is-
murder
it's-
you.
Finn was literally baseball swinging that lightsaber, just trying to be like, I'm gonna hit you at some point, and he did. He connected once, I think.
That's what I'm saying, man. Like that's what I'm saying. There's hints of Finn's force sensitivity. They just never went further with it.
No, they
Because like,
pushed
come on,
out.
this guy's a trained. He was a Jedi before. Now he's a trained dark side Knight of Ren or whatever. And like freaking Finn, man, who's picked up a lightsaber for the second time in his whole life, who's a stormtrooper, got a hit. Even if Kylo was injured, the fact that he got any sort of hit was pretty freaking impressive. You'd have to have some sort of like skills in combat, especially not just in combat, but lightsaber combat to get
No,
to get one
100%.
past the defense of a trained lightsaber user. And the whole factor with like the Rey getting the upper hand, yeah, it's like she wasn't trained in it, but obviously highly connected to the Force, and obviously Kylo
then,
was
again,
still fairly
she has-
injured. Like,
She has some staff training too,
Yeah,
right?
melee
and that
training,
translates
yeah.
a little bit.
but like,
Man,
yeah,
no,
you got to
you know what-
remember,
you know
like
who the most
Kylo,
wasted
Kylo
character-
got shot by Chewbacca's bowcaster. Like we seen
Which
that,
they spent
which-
time like actually
through the
building it up
movie,
this time.
we saw that bowcaster blowing people away.
I like this thing.
Like the whole movie, they show a couple times that thing just blowing people away. So the
I
fact
want to talk
that
about
the fact that Kylo got hit with that and was still had to fight, yeah, he's hurt, man. He was hurt.
You want to talk about the most wasted character?
Who's that?
Traitor. The random stormtrooper with the random
Like
battle axe.
It wasn't even. It was like a
Billy's
nightstick
club
Billy
kinda
Club
thing.
thing.
Yeah, like it was cool though. It was fun. Like that was a cool concept.
Yeah.
Like it was like overall, man. Like again, there
But, like,
were so
how
many
cool-
cool things.
I want to share my idea from episode 8, but okay, I'll share it
Well,
now.
wait, keep it.
Oh no,
No,
okay,
no,
I'll
no, keep it.
I'll try to remember. I hope I remember. I will.
You will.
I will.
Like again, man.
But
like,
yeah, that was a cool
that's the thing.
idea.
I think we can agree, and I think we can end on this. Episode 7 was a great start to a new franchise that did not deliver past it.
Yeah.
But if that movie got the sequels it deserved, we'd be in a whole new golden age of Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing, and that's
Mandalorian
where I
would
think
just be icing on the cake instead of having to be a whole nother layer of the like
Dude, there's a
restarting
chance-
the foundation.
there's a chance if we didn't get there's a good chance if we got the sequels we deserved to Force Awakens, we wouldn't even have
We might not have the
Mandalorian.
Mandalorian. Yeah.
But we might have something better. And that's what bugs me is we'll never know. And I'm just so upset because I love Force Awakens so much. Dude, I own it 3 times over. I bought a Blu-ray, a 3D Blu-ray, and the 4K of it.
Yeah.
That is how much I enjoy that movie. I bought it multiple times without even questioning. Wasn't even a second guess.
But like I said, man, like we talked about this before, and we've been talking about this all podcast. Like there's some really great things, and the biggest things we've thrown at this film that are like this doesn't work or this hasn't quite worked is the fact that they're never really followed up and answered in the previous sequels. The biggest theme and the biggest gripe we have about this movie today is the fact that it set up so much great potential that was never paid off. Whether we're talking about characters, themes, ideas, we've talked, that's been the whole theme of this podcast. Like that's been the whole theme. We love this movie.
yeah.
But the biggest thing we throw at it, it has things and ideas that were never paid off. It's a great start,
And that's
but it was never paid off.
not its fault.
No, it's not. Like you can't blame the movie. Like the movie as itself, on its own, is pretty damn good. It's pretty damn good.
So Matt, you got a question of the day for us?
I did, but I did ask it already in this kind of podcast when I was talking about like characters and stuff. But let me quickly think of another one here. And try and think of one I haven't asked before. Okay. Oh, here's one. Okay, because Disney Plus is doing a lot of like character side series and stuff with their Star Wars characters, and mainly it's been new ones, and one's coming out of the Clone Wars, and one's coming out of the original trilogy, I guess, and Obi-Wan. Which character would you like to see from the sequel trilogy? If you could watch any character show, who would it be? If you could get a show of any character from the sequel trilogy, who would it be?
That's a great question.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be after episode 9. It could be somewhere in the in-betweens, even though there isn't much. There's only one in between, I guess, technically, so. Between 8 and 9. And I think only a year there, so. There's not that much space,
Part of
actually.
me,
Never mind.
Well, because Poe technically has his own show, because that Resistance thing has Poe in it.
What Resistance?
There's a cartoon called Star Wars Resistance.
Oh, I
I
never
think it
did
only got a
watch
couple
that.
seasons.
I never did watch that. No.
Me neither. It got a couple seasons. That's all I really know.
I think that was before. I think like before and during. I think at least the first movie. Maybe the second one too. I don't know.
Honestly, I'd like to see more of what Rey is doing after Episode 9. I want to see what she's up to. Poe is fun, but he's gonna do flyboy stuff. Finn, I feel, is gonna be wrapped up in Rey's story too. Like again, I want to see more adventures with these guys. I also understand why they don't want to come back and do more.
Yeah.
I get it. Especially with how fans have been treating them, I 100% get it. I would not blame them in the slightest. Like, but no, like, they set up Rey to be this really cool character that we never get to see again. And I'm very upset by that.
Well, and they never reach her full potential. Like, even in defeating the Emperor, it wasn't really, like, it wasn't really all about her. It was just, I don't know.
That's because Kylo kind of became a bit of a fan favorite, and they just
Well,
kinda
not
decided
even
to go with
Kylo.
that.
I'm just saying when she's laying there and all the Jedi are like, "Get up, Rey, get up.
Do
We'll
it.
give you our
Just
spirit, our power, even though that's probably what happened. We don't know. Put two
stop
lightsabers
sucking,
together
just
and
win."
let Palpatine zap his face. Because remember, he doesn't know how to turn it off. He gets it started, but he has no idea how to turn it off, even when it's murdering him.
Trust me, bro. Trust me. This works. This works. I did it. I did it once. Killed him real good.
And I am all the Jedi. Oh my god. This is terrible. I fucking hate that line so much.
Is there anyone for you, or are you kind of in the same
I'm
boat
kind of in
where-
the same boat, right? Because I think what we've always been wanting to see is the continuation of the Jedi, right? Like unless I'm wrong, but we have wanted to see like Luke have his own Jedi Academy and see what was going on after 6. We never got that. So now to see like the Jedi be reformed again, and hopefully they don't start another trilogy after that and be like, they were destroyed by Rey's child, an evil Skywalker. I'd be like, son of a bitch.
Why? Why
Like,
do you
why
keep doing
again?
this?
But I would actually like to see a Rey and Rey Finn kind of buddy Jedi cop kind of series, because I do like the chemistry those two have together, the characters, and of course the performers, Daisy Ridley and John Boyega. Because part of episode 7 that made it really fun was those two characters being together, going on this kind of road trip across the galaxy, more or less, to save it. I thought that was like really strong. And if you have them both training, like she's teaching Finn about the Force, and they're both Jedi going on these different Jedi missions trying to rebuild the Order or something. Again, you have this series where you could very much serialize it, and them going from planet to planet to planet to situation, rebuilding the Jedi and doing what Jedi do, bringing peace and justice to the galaxy.
Would you
I think that
Would
would
you
be a
prefer
seriously cool show.
a series, or would you prefer
Oh, I'd probably
A movie?
prefer a series. I don't think they're gonna go back to film. I don't know. I think I'd be okay with the series as long as they did it like Mandalorian style, right? Like I don't. Nice job, you got the breads together.
Yeah, and I actually got like sorry. While we were talking, I was absentmindedly playing with this Rubik's Cube, and I actually got it to like the furthest step that I can get it, which is you make one side all the same color, and then you get the
T's.
4 sides into a T. And apparently I can just do that absent-mindedly now.
Cool, good for you, man.
Okay,
step.
yeah, that's. I'm glad to know I've never got farther than that. I can get as far as I've gone for the last 10 years of trying to fix
And
a
you're like,
Rubik's
"That's it."
Cube. I've peaked.
No, I think I'd prefer a series. At the end of the day, like the movie would be okay, but I think it would just be fun to follow them for like 8 or 9, 10 episodes, going from planet to planet kind of scenario. And like again, it's an
Oh,
idea you could very much serialize. And like I wouldn't want it to be like what the Marvel's been doing with like kind of the one long movie extended over X amount of episodes. Like I'd want it to be like more like Mandalorian, where every episode we're going different planet, new creatures, new adventures, But both of them as Jedi with lightsabers would be pretty freaking sick, man. That'd be actually really cool.
I want a Law and Order inspired Star
A
Wars
Law and
series
Order inspired.
with the three of them, where it's basically they're going to solve crimes.
That would actually be kind of cool too. Boom, 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 boom.
These are their stories. In a galaxy far, far away. Oh,
there's the Jedi who hunt down the criminals, and the Jedi who also deal out justice. These are their stories. Boom, boom. That'd be great.
Tatooine. 5 a.m.
Like on
This date.
like, that'd be pretty great, man. But no, I think like a buddy Jedi series.
Just some
with these
alien
guys would be
moving
so
boxes, getting questioned in the
just gets murdered. Damn it!
Yeah, I knew Jabba the Hutt. He was a piece of shit.
He was a fat bastard.
No, I'd be on board for that.
Like, I just think it'd be really fun. I don't think they'll ever do it. Maybe
think
they'll
so
do
either.
it in like years. You know what I mean? Like, it's not gonna be
When
anytime
everyone's
soon.
thirsty for money again.
Like, and I can never say never, because things happen in this industry that it's like you wouldn't see coming, and they just happen, right? You're like, wow, never thought I'd see that, but you do. So I think, yeah, absolutely. I think at some point, maybe it'll be 5 years, maybe it'll be 10 years. I think we could get a series like that. That'd be really
agree.
cool. Cool, man.
Is that it?
I think that's
the
it.
Star Wars episode?
I think that's it, baby.
All right. Well, guys, that's another episode of A Feast of Films. Matt, where can the good people find you?
Get ready to find us for the next Star Wars episode. Then the sabers come out, man. Then I think we agree. I think on the basics of the other ones, we just difference on like where we think maybe the problems are, or how big the
I
problems
think
are.
my biggest thing is Rise of Skywalker at least felt like a Star Wars movie, even though it was a mess, whereas Last Jedi just kind of like, meh.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about
And
that.
I'll bring up more points to support my argument. Or I'll change my mind when I watch the movies. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll have to see what happens. You can find me at on Twitter at GK Radio Man. That of course stands for Gaming Night Radio, that you can find on any podcast app. It's all about talking about gaming and the best of gaming and celebrating it with news, reviews, discussions, but also calling out the worst and some of the bullshit that happens. So that's kind of what we're all about. And you can find me, again, on any podcast app, or head to my website, gamingnightradio.com. Ethan, where can they find you?
People can find me at Ethan R. Hill on Instagram. You can also find me at Ethan R. Hill on YouTube. And you can also find mine and Prosser's feature film Damned Rights on realhouse.org. You can buy it, you can stream it, you can rent it, you can download it, give us some support and love, and enjoy a film that's almost as good as Star Wars if you watched it with no sound and no visuals.
And you were super wasted.
Yeah, if you just we're looking at a blank TV pretending to watch Star Wars, that's how good Damned Rights is.
Yeah, that sounds about accurate. It was fun though, watching it together when we went to watch it on that group one. That was fun.
Exactly.
Anyway.
So I guess that's it. Yeah. All right. That's been another episode of Feast of Films. I'm Ethan R. Hill, and with me as always is...
Matt Ayalew, I think. Yep,
Well,
that's
I
it.
hope so. Yeah.
Yep. Loading.
We'll see you all next week.
See you guys later.
Have a good week, everybody.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
So long.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Toodaloo.
Toodaloo.